Good evening. Welcome to part 9 of Bedtime Stories. Flossie held her body as still as a post. So afraid was she to waken the sleeping giant of pain inside of her. She could smell new rain leaking through the holes in the cabin's roof. The smell danced with that of salt pork and fresh garden vegetables simmering in a big stew pot. Someone was moving around in the cabin. Flossie turned her head and squeezed her good eyes shut, feigning sleep. This must be what it feels like to be dead, she thought. Each breath was just a waste of time until she could give up the ghost, and then all they would need to do was bury her. The River Road militia had beaten more than one baby out of Flossie on the day they found Mike Tolliver's desecrated body. She'd been carrying twin baby girls. 2 days after she delivered, Reba patched Flossie up as best she could, and the coachman loaded her and the babies in the back of a buck wagon and transported them back to Magnolia Hill. And now the babies were more than a month old, and Flossie had yet to look at them, to hold them, to name them. She didn't want to love them. She reasoned that if she allowed herself to love them, she'd surely lose them, just like she'd lost Juma and Jacob and everybody else she loved in her short life. And right about now, Flossie couldn't abide any more pain. It would incinerate her and carry her off with the next wind. Her mind wandered back to that last night she and Juma were together. He said he was going to take her and little Jake away from Magnolia Hill, that no one would ever hurt them again. But her son Jacob was dead and buried, and Ajuma didn't come back as he promised, so he must be dead too. Hattie Mae's familiar voice tunneled its way through the surface of Flossie's grief like an earthworm through moist soil. She was a short, nut-brown woman, well past her middle years, with big hips, bow legs, and a thick head of silver-gray hair that she wrapped around her head in a crown. She was a handsome woman who always spoke her mind, that is, whenever there were no white folks around. Ain't no need for you to try and play possum, gal. I know you wake. There's gonna be some changes today. I'm sick and tired of you laying around feeling sorry for yourself. Ain't like you the only one whose neck the white man done stepped on. Just about everybody on this here plantation been touched by the evil inside those Etiennes, she said. Flossie listened to every word Hattie Mae said, but she wasn't ready to hear her. The pain was too raw. She kept her eyes closed and her breathing even, thinking maybe if I don't turn around, she'll go away. At least that's what she hoped. She just wanted to be left alone so that she could wither away and die. But the woman would have none of it. You gonna eat this here broth I made for you, or you gonna choke when I shoves it down your throat. You choose, Hattie Mae said. Flossie felt the metal taste of a spoon prying her parched lips open and the taste of broth on her tongue, a second before the broth raced down her throat to block her airway. She started to choke. Her brain automatically turned on its coughing mechanism. It appeared even though she wanted to die, her body was not yet in agreement. She was forced to swallow first one, then another spoonful of the warm broth. That's right, gal. You ain't ready to die yet, Hattie Mae said with satisfaction. You got 2 young'uns to take care of. She coaxed yet another spoonful of soup between Flossie's busted lips. And just in case you're wondering, the voice said, we done named one of your babies Pearline after my own mother, and the other Minette after that white woman come visit Master Cleedemont for the governess job last year. Ain't right to let innocent babies go without a name, she mumbled. It's right sinful if you ask me. Hattie Mae didn't expect Flossie to respond to her chatter, so she didn't. Nothing you can do about that dead boy, Yorn. But there's a whole lot you can do about the 2 girls. Don't want to leave them to the devil's mercy, now do you? It had turned into a test of wills, with Hattie Mae staring unflinchingly into Flossie's ravaged face, and Flossie staring right back with her one good eye. It felt odd for Flossie to open both eyes and see a dark curtain over the other. All Flossie could do was look at Hattie Mae through her one good eye, wishing they'd beaten her hearing out of her right along with everything else. The pain was starting to stir again, but this time it was in her heart. Flossie didn't want to think about Jacob, and she certainly didn't want to talk about him. When she thought about what they did to her baby, she wanted to close her eyes and never wake up. The fates were wagging their fickle finger in Flossie's face. A couple of months ago, Hattie Mae wouldn't have spit on the best part of her, and now she was spooning soup into her mouth. Somebody should have told her all she had to do was have her son taken like a woman and murdered in front of her, and get herself beaten within an inch of her life to be accepted. That's right, Hattie Mae said. Eat, live, and maybe you might be able to pay young Massa back for what he did to you and your boy. Eat, gal. You know it was that nasty Minnie what sicked Master on you, and now she's strutting her skinny ass around with a new calico skirt and a brand new pair of shoes and a steady supply of rock candy, she confided. That got Flossie's attention. She would eat all right. She would game her strength. She would make Claude Etienne pay for what he did to her, even if it took her the rest of her life. She'd make his old man pay for bringing him into the world, and she'd make Claude's son pay just because they were his. But first, she was going to make Minnie pay. Flossie continued to swallow until she was too tired to open her mouth, and then she slept. Over the next few months, Flossie grew stronger. She had suffered a stroke after she delivered the twins, causing paralysis on the right side of her body. She was horribly disfigured and would always walk with a limp, but soon she was able to get around without exhaustion and without the assistance of her walking stick. She was assigned to work in the kitchen. It soon became a familiar sight to see her little twin daughters fast asleep or playing on a blanket on the floor while her mother toiled in the kitchen. In addition to her work in the kitchen, Flossie resumed her healing and midwife duties. The inhabitants of Magnolia Hill grew accustomed to seeing Flossie's wizened figure limping around the plantation with her scarred face, her one milky eye, and her little green-eyed, dark-skinned babies. The girls were identical in every way. But where Minette was perfect, little Pearline was born with a twisted little foot and the beginnings of a small hump between her little shoulder blades. Pearline had been a breech baby. Instead of turning her in the proper position for birth, the midwife pulled Pearline out feet first. Pearline's deformity was a result of her leg being broken at the hip when she was pulled out of Flossie's body. The foot the midwife used to pull Pearline out of the birthing canal was broken and was never properly set. Little Pearline would be fortunate if she was able to walk at all. That did not matter to Flossie. She adored both of her daughters. They represented an enduring gift of love that will sustain her without a Juma. Flossie's daughters became her life. Both had inherited their father's beautiful moss green eyes. Earlier that day, Claude Etienne's favorite dog, Junebug, bore a litter of 8 puppies. One of the puppies was born with only 3 legs. Claude grabbed that ill-formed puppy by the scruff of its neck and bashed its defenseless little body against the privy wall. The dead puppy was then tossed in the nearby hog trough. The sound of the hogs fighting to get at the tasty little morsel was music to Claude's ears. Word of Claude's cruelty had already reached Flossie. Later on that day, he paid an unexpected visit to the kitchen, along with his trusty lap dog Colby, who was as full of the devil as he was. That was the day the twins first came to Claude's attention. It was winter, and the toddlers were about 3 years old. They were lying within sight of their mother on a raggedy old blanket on the warm kitchen floor. An old hound dog they fed scraps to were lying nearby. Claude's eyes lit up when he saw little Pearline's twisted foot. Right then and there, he decided little Pearline was not worth the money it would cost to feed her. Flossie tensed when she heard the familiar jingle jangle of the silver tassels on Claude's dusty boots. She didn't have to worry about Cleedemont, Claude, or any man for that matter forcing their attentions upon her. No man would ever look upon Flossie with desire again. Her beauty had been destroyed when the whip ripped open her back and the belt ruined her face. It was just as well, since she would never again suffer a man's touch after what was done to her. But there were other ways someone like Claude Etienne could hurt her. She had good cause for concern. Claude didn't just enter the kitchen, he commanded it. Flossie schooled the expression on her scarred face to hide the hate that always crept to the surface when any Etienne was around. Claude was big, sweaty, and smelly. "They mines, Master Claude." Flossie tensed as he walked closer to the children so that he could get a better look at them. This was in response to Claude asking whose suckers they were. He squinted his gray eyes into the shape of bullets. His eyesight was starting to fail him. "What the hell is wrong with that one?" he asked, pointing to little Pearline. "She fine, Master Claude, except she can't walk," was Flossie's reply. "She don't look fine to me," Claude said, after spitting a thick glob of stinking tobacco on the floor, just inches from the children. "In fact, I think it's a crime to waste good, hard-earned money on a worthless, crippled slave who won't be able to earn her keep," he said. Claude took a moment to let his words sink in. He liked to toy with the slaves, to treat them like flies whose wings he could pull off at whim. He could feel the misery start to rise in Flossie. It made him feel powerful, like he was the king of the world. Flossie started to shake all over. Something bad was about to happen. She could feel it. Claude confirmed her worst fears with his next words. "Why, of half a mind to feed that good-for-nothing sucker to the hogs," he said, scaring the sweet bejeebus Jesus out of Flossie. Flossie whispered, "No, please, Master Claude, no." She begged for her daughter's life, swearing that Pearline would be made useful, that she would earn her keep. When her pleas fell on deaf ears, she fell to the dirt floor and started to pray. "Oh, Ludamere, have mercy. It's about to happen all over again. The devil's about to take another chunk of my heart. Soon there won't be none left. Please have mercy." The demon inside Claude whispered, "If killing that dog made you feel good, just imagine how good it would feel to kill that little deformed nigger. Bash her head up against the wall and watch her blood flow. Do it now," the demon demanded. A sly look came over Claude's face that frightened Flossie almost as much as his threat. "Since you begged so nicely," he said, "I'm going to let the little sucker live." Before Flossie could express relief or gratitude, he added, "And since you put so much stock in the little runt gal, you going to give me the healthy one instead." He turned to Colby. "Snatch that little nigger up and follow me," he demanded. "No, no, no, please, God, no." Flossie screamed and sobbed at his feet. She was losing her mind. "God, I can't take no more," she wailed. That day, Claude and Colby took little 3-year-old Minette away from Flossie. Cook grabbed Flossie to hold her, to keep her from flinging herself at Colby, who laughed as he carried the squirming little toddler in the direction of the trowel where they kept Claude's killer hogs. Flossie pressed her fist to her mouth when she heard her baby scream and the rooting squeal of the hungry hogs. After that, there was silence. Her good eye rolled in the back of her head, and she slumped in Cook's arms. Thank you for yet again allowing me to read an excerpt of my novel entitled The Bliss of the Grave. My name is C. Evelyn-Holland. Thank you and good night.